My son-in-law told me the best wedding gift I could give was to disappear from their family. So I did, and I took the $1.25 miniature house, the dream wedding, and the entire life I had paid for with me. Before continuing, write where you are from or what time it is. For 30 years, my world was a grid of blueprints and zoning laws. As a senior city planner, I didn't just build cities. I understood their foundations, their failure points, and what it took to make them last. My life was logical, methodical, and quiet. When my husband, Michael, passed away 10 years ago, he left me with a substantial life insurance policy and a grief so vast it felt like its own uncharted territory. I did the only thing I knew how to do. I made a plan. My focus narrowed to our only child, our daughter, Amelia. Mia was my masterpiece, the one project that mattered more than any bridge or bylaw. I saw her future as a city I could help build, a place of safety and boundless opportunity. I took Michael's legacy, that quiet, hard-working money, and I made an investment, not in stocks, but in her. I bought a house, not a starter home, but a beautiful, light-filled craftsman in a good neighborhood. I paid for it in cash, yen $250,000. When Mia graduated, I gave her the keys. "This is your foundation, sweetheart," I told her, my voice thick with an emotion I rarely showed. She had wept, her arms wrapped around me. The one detail I kept to myself, a planner's prudence, was that the deed remained securely in my name. It wasn't a lack of trust. It was a fail-safe, a final piece of rebar in the architecture of my love. I fully intended to sign it over to her on her wedding day, the final cornerstone. For 5 years, it was a happy success. Then she met Lance Rowe. Lance was a man whose charm was as bright and polished as the luxury cars he sold. He moved through the world with the easy, predatory confidence of a born salesman, a man whose charisma was a carefully honed weapon. He swept my sweet, slightly naive Mia off her feet. At first, I was cautiously optimistic. He made her happy. But as the wedding approached, my supportive role transformed into that of a full-time and very generous benefactor. I threw myself into planning their dream wedding, a celebration I was determined would be perfect. No expense was spared. I hired the best planner, Ms. Evelyn Hayes, on a $35,000 retainer. I booked the historic art gallery. I paid for the designer dress, the 5-star caterers, the 10-piece band. I was building another beautiful city, this one for a single, perfect day. I was so focused on the blueprint of her joy that I failed to see the rot eating away at its foundation. The rot, of course, was Lance. His gratitude was a thin veneer over a deep well of entitlement. The signs were small at first. Jokes about my old sedan. "Patricia, we have got to get you into a new ride. You can't be showing up to our parties in that thing. People will think we're not taking care of you." He was framing my sensible life as a problem he would have to solve with my money. His true contempt was reserved for my career. "I just don't get it," he said one night, swirling a glass of expensive wine I had bought. "You had all those connections at City Hall. You could have made millions consulting for developers. But you chose to waste it on bike lanes and public parks." He said public parks with a sneer, as if it were the most pathetic thing he'd ever heard. My daughter, my sweet, conflict-averse Mia, would just sit there, her expression a mask of pained, anxious silence. She would shoot me small, apologetic glances, her eyes pleading, "Don't start a fight. Don't rock the boat." For her sake, I would smile, a serene smile that betrayed none of the cold storm gathering inside me. The final week of the wedding, the budget, a meticulous document I had drafted, was treated by Lance as a mere suggestion. Every day brought a new, non-negotiable demand. It was Thursday night, 48 hours before the wedding. I was at the house, my house, helping Mia with seating charts. Lance was on the phone in the next room, his voice a loud, booming declaration of his own importance. It was a call with Ms. Hayes, the planner. "The champagne is not good enough, Evelyn," he was saying, his voice dripping with condescending authority. "I was at a party last week, and they were serving vintage Dom Perignon, the 2008. That's what we need. I don't care what it costs. Just get it." There was a pause. I could imagine Ms. Hayes on the other end, her pen hovering. "And the flowers," he boomed again. "I feel like we're being cheap. I want the entire altar covered in white orchids, a wall of them. I want it to look like a jungle, a beautiful, expensive jungle." I looked at Mia. Her face was pale. She knew, as I did, that these two items would add tens of thousands of dollars to a bill I was already struggling to cover. But she said nothing. She just rearranged a place card, her hand trembling. I couldn't stand by. I walked into the room. "Lance," I said, my voice calm but firm, "perhaps we should discuss these new expenses before you approve them." He turned, the phone still pressed to his ear. The look on his face was pure fury. He held up a hand, an imperious command for me to wait. He finished the call. "Just do it, Evelyn, and send the revised invoice to Patricia. She'll take care of it." He hung up and turned his full, venomous attention to me. The charming facade was gone, replaced by the ugly, snarling face of a man whose authority had been questioned. "What did you just say to me?" he hissed, his voice a low, dangerous growl. I looked past him to my daughter, who was standing in the doorway, her eyes wide with terror. "Say something," my heart screamed. "Defend me." She just stood there, frozen. "Lance," I said, my own voice shaking now, "this is getting out of control. These are my life savings." "Your savings?" He let out a short, sharp, deeply contemptuous laugh. "Let's be perfectly clear, Patricia. This is my wedding. It is Mia's wedding. It is not your wedding." He took a step closer, invading my space, a predator marking territory. "You are not a partner in this. You are a sponsor. Your job, your only job, is to provide the funding and remain silent. You do not get a vote. You do not get an opinion. Your only role is to sit quietly in the corner and sign the checks." I was stunned into silence. He was a guest in my house, a man whose entire lavish life I was underwriting, and he was speaking to me like a disobedient employee. "You are living in a house that I bought," I whispered, the rage making me tremble. "You are about to have a wedding I am paying for. You have no right." "Right?" He spat the word. "You want to talk about rights?" "My right is to have a perfect wedding day, a day that isn't overshadowed by your constant, judgmental presence. My right is to start a life with my wife, in our home, without her mother hovering over us like some sad, unwelcome ghost." He leaned in, his eyes cold and hard. His voice dropped to a final, executing whisper, meant as the killing blow. "You want to give us a wedding gift?" he asked, his voice a masterpiece of quiet, venomous cruelty. "The best gift, the greatest gift you could possibly give us, is if you disappeared from our family." The words hung in the air, a poison that sucked all the oxygen from the room. He had not just asked me to leave. He had asked me to cease to exist. He stood there, chest puffed, satisfied. He had finally said the quiet part out loud. He had drawn his line, and he was waiting for my surrender. But I wasn't looking at him. I was looking at my daughter. Mia had heard every word. She had seen the stunned, heartbroken disbelief on my face. She had seen the cold, unrepentant cruelty on her fiancé's. This was her moment, the moment to choose. "Choose me," my heart screamed. "Choose your mother. Choose love. Choose decency. Choose the woman who gave you everything over the man who is trying to take it all away. She stood in the doorway, her face a pale, agonized mask. Her eyes flickered from my face to Lance's. I saw the tears welling. I saw the dawning horror. I saw the daughter I had raised. But then she looked at Lance, at his cold, unyielding expression, an expression that promised a lifetime of anger if she defied him. And I saw the fear of his disapproval, the fear of losing the perfect, glittering, fraudulent life he had promised her, a life now less than 48 hours away. In the end, her fear was stronger than her love. She looked away from me. She looked down at the hardwood floor, the floor I had paid to have refinished, and she said nothing. Her silence was her answer. Her silence was her choice. Her silence was a betrayal so profound, it was more devastating than any of his ugly words. In that moment, the heartbroken, loving mother in me finally and irrevocably died. In her place, a different woman was born. A woman I hadn't seen in a very long time. It was the city planner. The woman who understood that when a structure is rotten to its core, when its very foundation is compromised, you do not try to repair it. You condemn it. You tear it down. I turned back to Lance. I didn't cry. I didn't raise my voice. I simply nodded, a small, tight movement of my chin. A gift, I said, my voice suddenly calm, a cold, terrible clarity settling over me. You want a gift. I looked at Mia, one last time. She was still looking at the floor. Then that is exactly what you will get. I walked out of the house, my house, and I didn't look back. I got into my sad old sedan and drove to my own small, quiet apartment. The pain was a physical thing, a cold, heavy weight in my chest. But beneath it, a new and strangely liberating feeling was taking root. The fog of my love had blinded me for too long. Now, it was burned away. I could see the entire ugly landscape with perfect, terrible precision. I sat down at my desk. I opened my laptop. I did not cry. I simply worked. I was a planner. And I was about to draft my masterpiece. A plan not for a city, but for a demolition. They thought I had retreated in shame. They thought they had won. They were probably, at that very moment, celebrating their victory, toasting their perfect mother-in-law-free future. They had no idea that their future, the one I had so foolishly built for them, was about to be systematically and irrevocably dismantled. I was not just going to disappear from their lives. I was going to disappear their lives. I worked through the night. The planner in me took over, a cool, methodical force that compartmentalized the screaming wound in my heart. The pain was a fuel, burning cold and bright, illuminating the path ahead. My love had been met with contempt, my generosity with entitlement, my presence with a demand for my own erasure. Very well, I had spent my life in public service, a concept alien to a man like Lance, who measured worth in commission checks. But that career had taught me something he could never understand: the power of contracts, the unyielding logic of a legal agreement. My apartment was filled with the quiet click of my keyboard. I pulled up the scans of every document I had kept. A planner always keeps the blueprints. First, the wedding. I pulled up the master contract with Ms. Evelyn Hayes. I had negotiated it myself. I scrolled to Clause 11B. Termination by funder. It was ironclad. I had retained sole, exclusive, and absolute power to terminate the event at any time, for any reason, with the forfeiture of all deposits. Second, the house. I opened the digital file containing the original $1,250,000 cash purchase agreement. I opened the property tax records, all paid from my account. I opened the scans of the half-dozen invoices for repairs I had covered over the years, the new water heater, the plumbing emergency, when Mia and Lance were a little short, and finally, the original notarized deed. Owner, Patricia M. Wallace. Third, the life. I opened a folder bulging with receipts, the lease agreements for their 2 luxury cars, co-signed and secured by me. The $42,500 paid in full, receipt for Mia's student loans, a graduation gift. The credit card statements showing the furniture, the appliances, the 80-inch television. I was not just a sponsor. I was the sole proprietor of their entire life. The sun was just beginning to cast a pale gray light into my apartment. The demolition was planned. The charges were set. All that was left was to push the button. At 7 a.m. on Saturday, October 18th, what was supposed to have been my daughter's wedding day, I made my first call. It was to Ms. Evelyn Hayes. She was a woman of formidable, expensive competence. Her loyalty, I knew with a planner's certainty, was not to the romantic dreams of the couple, but to the contractual obligations of the person signing her checks, me. She answered with a crisp, professional, and slightly harassed, "Good morning, Patricia. A beautiful, if busy, day for There has been a change of plans, Evelyn," I said. My voice as calm and steady as a surgeon's hand. "The wedding is canceled." There was a moment of stunned, professional silence. Ms. Hayes was not easily rattled, but I had managed it. "Canceled?" she finally managed, her voice a squeak of disbelief and dawning horror. "Patricia, that's not possible. The guests are arriving from out of town. The flowers have been delivered to the gallery. The caterers are already on site. We can't just cancel." "Yes, we can," I confirmed, my voice a flat, non-negotiable statement of fact, effective immediately. "I am the sole financier of this event, as our contract states. I am officially and irrevocably withdrawing all funding. I want you to invoke Clause 11B. Call the caterer, the florist, the orchestra, the venue. Inform all of them that the client has canceled and that all non-refundable deposits are to be forfeited." I had already calculated the cost. The $50,000 deposit for the venue, the $20,000 invoice from the caterer, the $15,000 bill from the florist, plus the $12,800 for Lance's champagne and the $22,000 for his wall of orchids. A dream that cost over $100,000 in non-refundable losses. $100,000 was the price of my freedom. I considered it a bargain. But why?" she stammered, her composure finally cracking. "What happened? Is Mia all right?" "Let's just say there has been a fundamental disagreement between the principal investors," I said, my voice as cold as the marble floors in the gallery. "Your final invoice, for your time and for the considerable cancellation services you are about to perform, should be sent directly to me. I will, of course, pay it in full. You have always been a consummate professional, Evelyn. I trust you will handle this final task with your usual efficiency." I hung up, leaving her to deal with the chaotic, expensive fallout. The first charge had been set. The beautiful $500,000 city of their dream wedding was about to be reduced to a pile of smoldering contractual rubble. My second call, at 7:15 a.m., was to a woman named Sarah Jenkins. Sarah was the sharpest, most aggressive, and most successful real estate agent I knew from my time at City Hall. She was a shark who lived for the thrill of a quick, high-value sale. "Sarah," I said, the moment she answered, "it's Patricia Wallace. I have a property I need to sell, immediately." "Patricia," she said, her voice full of a warm enthusiasm I knew was directly proportional to the commission she was anticipating. "Good to hear from you. What have you got for me? Something good, I hope." I gave her the address of the beautiful 4-bedroom craftsman. The house that my daughter and her fiancé, at this very moment, were probably just waking up in, blissfully unaware of the earthquake about to swallow them whole. There was a moment of surprised silence. Sarah knew the house. She knew Mia lived there. "Are you sure, Patricia?" she asked, a rare note of caution in her voice. "That's Mia's place, isn't it?" "It is my place, Sarah," I corrected her. "My voice is clear and cold as a winter morning. The deed is in my name, and my name alone. I have decided it is time to liquidate the asset." The cold financial term, liquidate the asset, was a deliberate signal. This was not emotional. This was business. Sarah, who could smell a large commission a mile away, didn't ask another question. The shark was back. "Consider it done, Patricia," she said, her voice now full of excitement. "I'll have the listing agreement sent over for e-signature within the hour. I've already got a half-dozen buyers who would kill for a property like that. How aggressive do you want to be on pricing?" "I want it priced to move," I said. "Yesterday." "I love the way you think," she said with a throaty laugh. "And the sign? When do you want that to go up?" I looked at the clock. 7:20 a.m. "I want the for sale sign planted in the front yard by 9 a.m., I said. "And Sarah, I want you to host an open house. Today. Say 1 p.m. Today." Even Sarah was surprised. "Patricia, the occupants will be notified," I said. 1 p.m. "I want it sold by Monday." "You've got it." I hung up. I received the listing agreement by email, signed it digitally, and sent it back. The second charge was set. The very foundation of their life, the beautiful solid ground beneath their feet, was about to be sold out from under them. The demolition was now, officially and irrevocably, underway. On what was supposed to be the happiest day of their lives, Lance and Mia woke up, not to the sound of celebratory champagne corks, but to the insistent, frantic buzzing of their cell phones. The first call was from Mia's maid of honor, her voice a high-pitched squeak of confusion and wounded concern. "Mia, what is going on? I just got a call from the wedding planner. A very cold, very official call. She said the wedding is off." "Is this a joke? Are you okay? I'm standing here with my dress." Mia, half asleep, mumbled, "What? Ms. Hayes? No, that's a mistake." Before she could hang up, Lance's phone roared to life. It was his best man. "Dude, what the hell?" his friend shouted, his voice full of an angry, hungover disbelief. "The limo company just called my room. They said the reservation for the party bus is canceled. Withdrawal of funds. What does that even mean? Is this some kind of prank? Because it is not funny." And then the floodgates opened. A torrent of calls and texts, a digital avalanche that buried them in seconds. From the caterer, "Mia, just got a frantic call from Ms. Hayes. We are instructed to stand down. Our trucks are turning around. I am so sorry, but the deposit is forfeit." From the photographer, "Lance, call me. The planner just canceled my contract. What's happening?" From Mia's aunt, "Amelia, honey, I'm at the airport. I just got an email from Hayes Events saying the wedding is canceled. Please tell me this is a horrible mistake. I paid for a non-refundable ticket." Their initial reaction was pure, uncomprehending confusion. They thought it was a logistical nightmare, a massive, expensive error caused by an incompetent planner. Lance, his face a mask of furious, arrogant disbelief, grabbed his phone. "I'm going to end that woman," he snarled, dialing Ms. Hayes, ready to unleash the full force of his entitled rage. But he didn't get the chance. Ms. Hayes, a woman who was, I am sure, taking a certain cold professional satisfaction in this task, informed him in a cool and utterly final tone. "Mr. Rowe, there is no mistake. The wedding has been canceled, effective 7 a.m. this morning. by the sole and exclusive financier of the event, Patricia Wallace. All decisions are final. All deposits are forfeit. My services to you and Miss Rivas are now concluded. Goodbye." He stared at the dead phone. "Financier? Financier?" he sputtered. She wouldn't dare." "Lance," Mia whispered, her face pale, her hands shaking. She was so angry. That thing you said." "She'll get over it," Lance snapped. "She's bluffing. She's just being dramatic. She would never do this to you, to us." And it was in that exact moment of arrogant denial that they looked out their front window. A woman was on their perfect manicured lawn, a sharp-dressed woman with a clipboard. A man was next to her, hammering a thick wooden post into the soft green earth. "Who the hell is that?" Lance growled. The man finished. He attached a large professional sign to the post. It was a sign with a single, devastating, world-altering phrase, printed in bold red letters. "For sale." They stared. Their minds, already reeling from the canceled wedding, struggled to process the impossible, surreal image. "Lance," Mia said, her voice a tiny, breathless sound. That's Sarah Jenkins. That's Mom's real estate agent." The reality of my gift was beginning to dawn. The woman they had tried to disappear was, it turned out, the only person who had been holding their world together. And she had just, with 2 simple phone calls, let it all go. Their panic, a slow simmering fire, now exploded into a full-blown 5-alarm inferno. They rushed out of the house, still in their pajamas and bare feet. A shocking, deeply satisfying breach of their carefully constructed image of perfect, effortless elegance. "What is this?" Lance shouted at Sarah, who was at that very moment attaching a digital lockbox to their front door. "Get this thing off our lawn. This is harassment." Sarah Jenkins, the cool and utterly unflappable shark, simply turned and gave him a polite, deeply unsympathetic smile. "Mr. Rowe, is it? I'm Sarah Jenkins. I'm the listing agent for this property." "You can't list this property. We live here," he roared. "Actually, you don't," Sarah said, her smile not faltering. "According to the county records, you are non-paying occupants in a property owned exclusively by Patricia Wallace. Ms. Wallace has decided to sell." She handed him her business card. "If you have any questions, you'll need to direct them to the property's legal owner." She then added, with a final, professional, and deeply cutting flourish, "Oh, and just so you know, the first open house is at 1 p.m. Ms. Wallace requested that you make the property presentable and available. Have a lovely day." She got in her car and drove away. They stood on the lawn, staring at the sign, staring at the lockbox on their own front door. "She's bluffing," Lance said again, but his voice was shaking. "The wedding, the house. This is insane. We can fix this. We just have to find her." "The venue," Mia said, suddenly galvanized by a new desperate hope. "The guests are still going to the venue. If we get there, we can explain. We can still have the party. We'll pay the caterer ourselves." "Yes," Lance seized on the idea. "We'll put it on the credit card. It's our day. She can't take it from us." They rushed back inside, threw on clothes, and sped to the art gallery. A desperate, last-ditch attempt to salvage the day, to reverse the irreversible tide of their own self-inflicted doom. They were, of course, too late. The venue, which should have been a bustling hive of floral arrangements and champagne fountains, was dark, empty, locked. A single printed sign was taped to the glass of the grand carved wood doors. "The event scheduled for October 18th has been canceled by the host. We apologize for the inconvenience. Venue management." Mia put her hand against the cold glass. "No, no, no, no." She finally broke down, sliding down the door to sit sobbing on the cold stone steps of the gallery. Her perfect day. Gone. Lance stood over her, not comforting, not holding her. He was staring at his phone, his face a mask of pale, murderous rage. He was texting me, again and again. "Patricia, you psycho, call me now. You are ruining your daughter's life. You will not get away with this. You're crazy. You need help." My phone, sitting on my apartment desk, was silent. I had blocked his number an hour ago. "She's not answering," he seethed. As he stood there, his phone buzzed with an incoming text. It wasn't from me. It was an automated alert from a moving company. "Apex Movers. Your pickup crew is en route. ETA at 1850 Chestnut Drive is 11 hours a.m. Please ensure the items for transport are accessible." Lance read it. He read it again. "Pickup?" he whispered. What pickup?" He looked at Mia, who was still crying on the steps. "Get up," he hissed, yanking her by the arm. "Get up. We have to go back. Now." They sped back to the house, breaking every speed limit. They skidded into the driveway at 11:05 a.m. They were just in time to see a large, unmarked moving truck park at the curb. The front door of their house, their beautiful, solid, dependable front door, was wide open. Sarah Jenkins, the realtor, was there. She had used the key in the lockbox to let the movers in. A team of efficient, unsentimental movers was in the process of carrying all of their worldly possessions out of the house. Not all their possessions, just the ones I had bought, which, as it turned out, was almost everything. "Hey," Lance bellowed, jumping out of the car. "What do you think you're doing? Get out of my house. This is theft." The foreman, a large man with a calm expression and a clipboard, met him on the lawn. "Sir, are you Mr. Rowe?" "You're damn right I am. Put my sofa down." The expensive, minimalist Scandinavian sofa was at that moment being expertly navigated through the front door. "I can't do that, sir," the foreman said calmly. "We have a work order here from the owner, Ms. Patricia Wallace." He held out the clipboard. Taped to it was an artifact, a detailed, itemized list of every major purchase, complete with photos, model numbers, and copies of the original receipts. This sofa, that 80-inch flat-screen television, the state-of-the-art stainless steel kitchen appliances, the beautiful 10-foot antique dining room table, the 4-poster king-sized bed from the master bedroom. "It's all on the order, sir. Signed and paid for by Miss Wallace. We're hired to move it to a storage facility." Lance stared at the list, his face turning a blotchy, furious red. You can't. This is our stuff. We've been using it. This is our home." "Sir, I understand you're upset," the foreman said, his patience wearing thin. "But unless you have a receipt or a bill of sale in your name for these items, I have to follow my work order. Now, please step aside." "I'll call the police," Lance threatened. "Go ahead," Sarah Jenkins called out from the porch, her phone already in her hand. "I've already got them on non-emergency dispatch. I notified them that the owner would be repossessing her assets from tenants at will who were reluctant to cooperate. They should be here any minute." Checkmate. Lance was sputtering, his impotent rage bouncing off the calm professional wall I had constructed. He and Mia were forced to stand on their own front lawn, in full view of their confused and whispering neighbors, and watch. One by one, the physical, tangible symbols of their beautiful, fraudulent life were systematically and legally repossessed. The movers were fast. They were professionals. They wrapped the art I had bought. They disconnected the washer and dryer. They rolled up the rugs. The most brutal cut, the one that made Mia let out a small, strangled cry, was when they wheeled out a garment rack. On it, pristine in its plastic covering, was her designer wedding dress, the one I had paid for. They emptied the house with a terrifying efficiency. It became a hollow, echoing shell. The beautiful, warm, inviting home I had created for my daughter was gone, replaced by a cold, empty, sterile space, a perfect physical manifestation of the emotional emptiness of their life. By 12:30 p.m., the truck was loaded. "We're all set, ma'am," the foreman said to Sarah. "Wait!" Mia suddenly cried out, her voice desperate. My clothes, my personal things, my laptop." "Ma'am, we were only instructed to take the items on this list," the foreman said gently. "Anything that wasn't on the list is still in the closets and drawers. We didn't touch any of that." He and his crew got in the truck and drove away. Mia and Lance stood in the doorway, their faces pale with shock, their minds unable to process the sheer speed and totality of their ruin. They had woken up that morning as the king and queen of their own small, glittering kingdom. Now, just a few hours later, they were standing in the ruins of that kingdom, with nothing but the bitter, undeniable taste of their own consequences. "This is it," Sarah Jenkins said, walking up to them. Her voice was brisk. "The open house starts in 30 minutes. I suggest you pack." "Pack?" Mia said, her voice numb. "Pack and go where?" "That's between you and Ms. Wallace," Sarah said. She gestured to the vast empty living room. "Oh, the foreman asked me to tell you. They left one box for you, per the owner's instructions." In the center of the room, where their expensive sofa had once been, sat a single, large, unassuming moving box. It was a plain brown cardboard box, sealed with a single strip of packing tape. It was the only thing I had left behind. They approached the box with a new, understandable trepidation. They had no idea what to expect. A bomb? A collection of their own discarded trash? Taped to the top of the box was a simple white envelope. On it, in my own familiar, steady cursive, was my daughter's name, Amelia. Mia's hands trembled so much she couldn't open it. Lance, in a fit of angry impatience, ripped the box open himself. Inside, there was nothing dramatic. There was only a collection of neat, meticulously organized 3-ring binders. I am, and always will be, a planner. My final presentation to them was as organized, as logical, and as devastatingly precise as any city plan I had ever drafted. They were about to be given a guided tour of the true cost of their ungrateful life. Lance pulled out the first binder. It was labeled simply, "The Foundation, the House." He opened it. Inside, in chronological plastic sheathed pages, were copies of every single document related to the home they had just lost. The first page was the original purchase agreement, the full $1,250,000 price, clearly marked paid in cash. Buyer, Patricia M. Wallace. The next sections were the property tax bills for the past 5 years, every single one marked paid, with a copy of the check drawn from my personal account. Then came the homeowner's insurance statements, all paid by me. Then a section titled Major Repairs. There was the $2,800 invoice for the new water heater from 2 years ago, the $5,000 emergency plumbing bill from last March, when a pipe burst in the basement. On it, Mia had scribbled a note. "Mom, can you help us with this one? Lance's commission was delayed. We'll pay you back." Beneath it, I had simply included a copy of my canceled check. There was, of course, no record of them ever paying me back. It was a complete, undeniable financial history of the foundation of their life. A foundation they had not built, but had simply and ungratefully occupied. Mia sank to the floor, her legs giving out. "Oh my God," she whispered. "So what?" Lance snapped, his bravado cracking. "She's your mother." It was a gift. He grabbed the second binder. This one was labeled The Life, the Lifestyle. This binder contained the receipts for every major purchase I had made for them, the co-signed lease agreements for his luxury sedan and her SUV. Highlighted in yellow was the clause that made me financially responsible in case of default. The receipts for the furniture, the appliances, the electronics, all now in a moving truck. And then a single page. It was the paid in full statement for Mia's college education. All $42,500 of her student loans, which I had paid off as an early wedding gift. Mia made a small, wounded sound. She remembered that day. She had cried, just as she had when I gave her the house. "Thank you, Mommy," she had said. "You've given me a fresh start." Lance stared at the number. 42,000? I thought you paid that off with your first job. I... Mia couldn't speak. She had lied. Or rather, she had allowed him to believe a lie, to make herself seem more independent, less beholden to her mother. The final binder was the thickest. It was labeled The Wedding, The Dream. Inside was every single eye-watering and now completely useless receipt for the dream that would never happen. The $50,000 non-refundable deposit for the art gallery, the $20,000 non-refundable deposit for the caterer, the $15,000 non-refundable bill from the florist, the $35,000 retainer for Miss Hayes, page after page of my own foolish, blind, and now deeply regretted extravagance. And at the very back, in a special section titled Final Editions, approved by Lance Rowe, were the 2 new invoices Ms. Hayes had emailed me after Lance's call on Thursday. Vintage Dom Perignon, 2008, $12,800. White Orchid Altar Wall, $22,000. Mia's head snapped up. She looked at Lance. You approved $34,000 in new charges 2 days ago? Without even talking to me? It was for us, baby, he insisted, his voice sounding desperate. It was for our perfect day. It was on her credit card, Mia shrieked, the full crushing weight of their entitlement finally landing on her. On the final page of the final binder, I had printed a single, simple, and beautifully designed invoice. It was an itemized list of every single expense from all 3 binders: the house, the taxes, the repairs, the cars, the loans, the wedding. The grand staggering total of my 5 years of unacknowledged and unappreciated financial support was summed up in a single, devastating phrase I had typed at the bottom. Total, the cost of your ingratitude. A car door slammed outside. The first prospective buyers for the 1 p.m. open house were arriving. Mia, her hands trembling, her face a pale, tear-streaked mask of pure, unadulterated shock, finally reached for the white envelope, the one with her name on it. She slowly, dreadingly, opened the flap. Inside, there was not a letter. There was no angry, accusatory diatribe. There was no final parting shot of maternal disappointment. The lectures were over. The love, or at least the blind, foolish version of it, was over. All that was left was the final, impersonal transaction. The envelope contained 3 simple, life-altering items. The first was the original official deed to the house, the legal document that she had, I am sure, never bothered to look at. On the line for property owner, my name was clear and stark: Patricia M. Wallace. It was the final, irrefutable proof that the life she had thought was her own had been nothing more than a long-term, very generous loan. A loan whose terms had just been, with her own silent complicity, irrevocably violated. The second item was a single, newly cut key. It was a simple, unremarkable-looking key, the kind you get from a hardware store. It was attached to a plain plastic tag. On the tag, written in my same steady cursive, was a simple and unfamiliar address: The third and final item was a small, simple, and elegantly printed note card. It read, Amelia, you said you wanted me to disappear. I have. I have taken back what was mine. These are the keys to a one-bedroom apartment at 1812 Miller Avenue. I have prepaid the rent for the next 3 months, a total of $7,500. After that, you are on your own. Goodbye. Mia stared at the note, the words blurring through her tears. A one-bedroom apartment. Miller Avenue. That was across town. Not a good neighborhood. Not a bad one, but... What is it? Lance demanded, snatching the note from her hand. He read it. His face, which had been pale with shock, now flushed a deep, ugly purple. Miller Avenue? He hissed. A one-bedroom apartment. Is she kidding me? After all this? After everything? That's her final insult? He looked around the empty room, at the bare walls and the dusty outlines where their furniture had been. He looked at the open box of receipts, this monument to his own greed. And then he looked at Mia, his eyes, once so charming, now cold and reptilian. This is your fault, he spat. Mia recoiled as if he had slapped her. What? This is your fault, he repeated, his voice rising to a shout that echoed in the empty house. You were supposed to handle her. She's your mother. You were supposed to keep her in line. All you had to do was keep your mouth shut and let me manage the old woman. But you couldn't even do that. You let her get in your head. You let her walk all over us. Mia stared at him. It was as if a veil had been ripped away. She wasn't seeing the charming, confident man she had fallen in love with. She was seeing a weak, terrified boy, a spoiled child throwing a tantrum because his favorite toy had been taken away. He hadn't loved her. He had loved her foundation. The house, the cars, the money, the lifestyle I had provided. He was a parasite, and his host had just been removed. You, she whispered, her voice trembling with a new cold rage. You did this. You said those things to her. You told my mother. You told her to disappear. So what? He yelled. She was in the way. She was always in the way. And now look. Look what you've done. You've lost us everything. The house, the wedding. My God, the humiliation. He paced the room, running his hands through his hair. A one-bedroom apartment. What am I supposed to do in a one-bedroom apartment? Where am I supposed to park my car? The car she's probably going to cancel the lease on. The we and us was gone. It was just I and my. That was it. The final crack. The whole rotten structure of their relationship came crashing down. Mia stood up. Her tears were gone. Her face was a mask of cold, hard clarity. The same clarity I had felt 48 hours before. It was a terrible, awful gift I had given her, the truth. Get out, she said. Lance stopped pacing. What did you say? I said, Mia repeated, her voice low and steady. Get out. Get out? He laughed, a high-pitched, hysterical sound. Get out and go where? This is my house. Or it was. It was never your house, Lance, she said. You were right. It was hers. And now, I guess it's not mine either. But this apartment? She snatched the key from his hand. This one is. She walked to the front closet, which the movers hadn't touched. She grabbed her own coat, her purse, and her laptop bag. She pulled out a small, empty duffel bag and began stuffing the few articles of her own clothing that were left. Amelia, don't be stupid, Lance said, his tone shifting, trying to find that old charm. Baby, we're a team. We can fix this. We'll sue her. We'll sue her for emotional distress. We'll get the house back. Mia zipped the duffel bag. She looked at him, truly looked at him, and she felt nothing but a profound, icy pity. There is no we, Lance, she said. You made that clear. You made me choose, and I chose wrong. I chose wrong, and I will have to live with that for the rest of my life. She walked to the front door. The first group of prospective buyers was walking up the path, led by a smiling Sarah Jenkins. Excuse me, Mia said, pushing past them. Mia! Mia, wait! Lance called, running after her. You can't just leave me here. Mia didn't look back. She walked down the driveway, past the for sale sign, and just kept walking. She had no car. She had no money, save for the few $100s in her checking account. She had nothing but a duffel bag and a key to a one-bedroom apartment on Miller Avenue. Lance stood in the doorway, screaming her name. The prospective buyers filed into the empty house, their faces full of curiosity. He stood there for a moment, a king with no castle, no queen, and no subjects, defeated. Then he turned, ran back inside, and grabbed the one thing that was unequivocally his own suitcase. He stuffed his designer clothes into it, pushed past Sarah Jenkins, and stormed out to his luxury sedan. He peeled out, leaving Mia, the house, and the entire mess behind. He left her on the sidewalk, alone, in the ruins of the life he had promised her. Their beautiful, fraudulent love story, built on a foundation of my money, and their shared shallow ambitions, didn't survive the first brush with reality. It was over. The epilogue to this story is not about their ruin, but about my own quiet, long overdue reconstruction. The house sold in 3 days. The market was high, and Sarah Jenkins, true to her word, had started a bidding war. It sold for $120,000, well over asking. After fees, the windfall was considerable. I did not hear from Mia. I didn't expect to. I had drawn my line. The apartment I had rented for her was a final act of maternal obligation, not an invitation. It was a foundation, a tiny concrete slab foundation, but a foundation nonetheless. What she built on it was her own concern. I heard through the grapevine that their divorce was messy and pathetic. He, a man who had only ever been attracted to the lifestyle she represented, had no interest in the woman who was now working 2 jobs, one as a barista, one as a freelance graphic designer, to save up for her own apartment deposit. And she, her eyes finally and painfully open to the hollow nature of the man she had almost married, had no interest in the weak, entitled man he had revealed himself to be. I took no joy in this. I felt only a quiet, profound sadness for the daughter I had lost, and a deep, abiding peace in my own hard-won freedom. But the story of Lance, it turned out, had one final karmic chapter. About 6 months later, I received a call from Sarah Jenkins. "Patricia," she said, and I could hear the laughter in her voice. "You are not going to believe this." I had to share. "What is it, Sarah?" I asked, signing off on a stack of invoices. "I got a call from a fraud investigator at a major auto lender. They were processing a loan application for a Mr. Lance Rowe." My blood went still. He was trying to finance a brand new, top-of-the-line sports car, Sarah continued, and on his asset declaration form, he listed as running $25 million property on Chestnut Drive and a second luxury vehicle as fully owned. The bank, doing its due diligence, ran a title search on the house and found it had been sold 6 months ago. By you. I closed my eyes. The sheer, breathtaking arrogance. "So," Sarah said, practically purring. The auto loan was, of course, denied. But the bank also flagged his application as willful misrepresentation and attempted bank fraud. They've opened a full investigation. They're auditing his last 5 years of financial statements and tax returns. I thought about his delayed commission checks, the casual way he dismissed my life's work while living off it. The man who lived in a city of lies was finally, it seemed, having his foundations inspected by someone who wasn't his mother-in-law. Well, I said, a small cold smile touching my lips. That is unfortunate. For him. Unfortunate, Sarah agreed, laughing. Anyway, I thought you'd appreciate the update. You build things, Patricia. He just tears them down. Looks like he finally tore down the wrong one. I hung up the phone. I felt nothing. No, that's not true. I felt balanced. The scales, which had been so terribly lopsided, had finally, and without any further effort from me, leveled out. My focus was elsewhere. I was busy. I had a new project, a new city to build. 3 months after the demolition, I had received a letter. It wasn't a text or a call. It was a simple handwritten note sent to my P.O. box. It was from Mia. It wasn't a plea for forgiveness. It wasn't an excuse. It wasn't a request for money. It was just 10 words. Mom, I'm so sorry. I know I chose wrong. I read the note. I folded it. I put it in my desk drawer. It was an acknowledgement, an ending. But it was not, I knew, a new beginning. Not for us. Some structures are too damaged to be rebuilt. You can only salvage the materials and build something new. And I was building. I took the full proceeds from the sale of the house that Michael's love had bought, and I created a foundation. Not a charitable one, but an active one. A development company with a single, clear mandate. Today, 1 year after that terrible, liberating day, I'm standing on a busy, hopeful construction site. I'm not in my old office attire. I'm in sensible boots and a brand new, bright yellow hard hat. I'm holding a set of blueprints. This is my new project, my masterpiece. It's not a single grand mansion for a privileged child. It's a small, beautiful, and meticulously planned community of 12 high-quality, affordable starter homes. A community designed for single mothers. A place where other women who are just starting out, women who are trying to build a life for their own children, can have the one thing my own daughter had taken for granted, a safe and beautiful foundation. I named it the Michael Wallace Homes. I am not just the benefactor. I am the project manager. I am the city planner. I am the woman who, with her own 2 capable hands, is building a new and better kind of legacy. One of the new residents, a young woman with a toddler on her hip, walks over. She's a nurse, and she's been saving for a down payment for 5 years. Ms. Wallace, she says, her eyes shining. I saw the kitchen cabinets. They're beautiful. I can't believe this is real. It's real, Maria, I say, smiling at her. Solid foundations. She nods, her eyes full of tears. Thank you. You have no idea what this means. It's everything. You're welcome, I say. I look at the blueprints in my hand, at the clean lines and the solid logic. I look up at the frame of a new house, strong and true against the blue sky. I am finally, and blessedly, building a city of my own. My foreman walks over, and I tap the plans. All right, Frank, I say, adjusting my hard hat. The forms are set. The rebar is tied. I smile, the sun warm on my face. Let's pour the foundation. The construction of the Michael Wallace Homes became my entire world. It was harder work than I had ever done at City Hall. It was real world, mud on your boots, yelling at contractors' work, and it was the most profound joy I had ever known. I was on site from dawn until dusk. I oversaw every inspection. I argued with suppliers over the cost of lumber. I personally approved the hardware for the cabinets and the drought-tolerant landscaping. This wasn't just a project, it was a mission. Each house was a fortress of stability for a woman who desperately needed it. The city I was building was small, but its foundations were sound. They were built not on the blind, foolish hope of one person's future, but on the practical, resilient reality of many. 6 more months passed. The first phase of homes was complete. The first 6 families were moving in. I was there on moving day, not as a benefactor, but as a project manager, clipboard in hand, checking off a punch list. I saw Maria, the nurse, carrying her toddler through the front door of their new home. She stopped on the threshold, kissed her son's head, and whispered, "We're home." I turned away, my throat tight. This was it. This was the work that mattered. This was the legacy Michael would have been proud of. My phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. "Mom, it's Mia. I'm outside. Please." 5 minutes. My heart didn't stop. It didn't leap. It just beat. I looked at the construction site. The second phase of foundations was being dug. I had work to do. I texted back, "I'm busy, Amelia." Another text came immediately. "I know. I see you. You're building." "That's, of course you are. I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to give you something." I sighed. I walked to the edge of the construction site. She was standing there, on the public sidewalk. She looked different. Thinner? Yes, but stronger. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. She was wearing the uniform from a local coffee shop. She was holding a single, thick envelope. "You look good, Mom," she said. "You look well, Amelia," I replied. It was the truth. The anxiety that had clung to her like a shroud during her time with Lance was gone. She looked tired, but she looked like herself. "I have my own apartment now," she said, not as a boast, but as a fact. "My name is on the lease. It's tiny, and the plumbing is loud, but it's mine. I paid for it." "That's good," I said. "I've been working 2 jobs, and I've been saving." She held out the envelope. I looked at it. I didn't take it. "What is this?" "It's the first payment," she said, her voice shaking just a little, but holding steady. It's not much. It's $7,500. My eyes widened. I recognized the number. It was the exact amount I had paid for her 3 months' rent. "I kept the note," she said, tears welling in her eyes. But she didn't let them fall. "I kept it. And I kept the binders. I read them. I read them every night for a month, to remember." She pushed the envelope into my hand. It was a cashier's check. "It's the first deposit," she said. I'm going to pay you back. All of it. The loans, the cars, the wedding, the deposits. I know it'll probably take me the rest of my life, but I'm going to do it. I have to." I stared at the check. $7,500, earned in tips and freelance design jobs. It was the hardest earned money she had ever touched. This was not the daughter I had known. This was a new woman, one who had been stripped down to her foundations and had chosen to build, not on sand, but on rock. "Amelia," I whispered. "I don't expect you to forgive me," she said quickly, taking a step back. "I don't. I know what I did. I know the choice I made. I stood there, and I let him. I let him say that to you. And I said nothing. I chose a pretty empty building over my own foundation. I will never, ever forgive myself for that." She looked at the houses behind me. "But I see what you're doing here. You're doing what you've always done. You're building. And I wanted you to know that I'm building too." I looked down at the check. Then I looked at her. My daughter. I had lost a child, but I was, at this very moment, meeting a new woman, an adult. I slowly, deliberately, tore the check in half. Her face crumpled. "No, Mom, please." "This," I said, holding up the 2 pieces of the check, "is a receipt. It's paid in full." "What? No, I can't accept that." "You don't understand, Amelia," I said, my voice soft. This This isn't repayment. This is proof. You did the work. You saved the money. You showed up here. You don't owe me this. I tucked the torn pieces into my pocket. This debt is clear. I looked at her. My daughter. My child. The love I had felt was not dead, I realized. It had just been buried under so much concrete and steel of my own rage. The other debts, I said, my voice thick. The student loans, the cars. Consider them an inheritance. An inheritance you finally, truly earned. She was openly sobbing now, her hands over her mouth. I'm not ready to have dinner, Amelia, I said honestly. I'm not ready for that, but I'm proud of you. It was the first time I had said it, and truly meant it in years. She nodded, wiping her face. I know. I understand. Thank you, Mom. She turned and walked away. She didn't look back. I watched her go. A straight, strong back. A woman walking on her own 2 feet. I turned back to my construction site. The foreman was waiting for me, his expression carefully neutral. I cleared my throat and looked at the blueprints, though I knew them by heart. Right, Frank, I said, my voice a little rough. I tapped the plans. Phase 2. We're burning daylight. He grinned. Yes, ma'am. Let's get to work. I put my hands on my hips and looked at the city I was building. It was good. It was strong. And for the first time in a very, very long time, I felt like the foundations of my own heart were finally, truly secure. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.